Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Homeschooling 101. So let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Gabrielle Critchlow. I am the owner and director of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and I am your host for this evening. So again, welcome to Homeschooling 101. So the purpose of this workshop is to connect parents to the world of homeschooling and to expose them to different types of education. So since the pandemic began, there's been a surge of demand in homeschooling due to either the lack of remote learning or just the dissatisfaction with the school system. Furthermore, many of you may have heard about homeschooling in some way or another, right? Somehow in passing, whether in a positive or a negative light. You may have heard the little negative rumors about it, and you just want to know what all the fuss is about. What is this homeschooling business? Well, let me tell you. Before I tell you, so many of you may be homeschooling right now and you just want more information. Maybe you want to meet the other homeschoolers and see what they're doing. Whatever it is, wherever you are in this spectrum of homeschooling, you have questions and we're here to answer them to the best of our abilities. So this workshop here is part of our mission, the mission of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, to tackle the academic challenges of all students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. And in doing so, we fulfill the belief that we will improve our communities in the process. So right now you are watching this live. You are watching this live on YouTube. You're watching it live on Facebook. And I'm even trying out Twitter. So you're watching it live on Twitter as well. However, this will be available on those same platforms for the replay. So definitely stay tuned for that. And in case you miss it or you come in later, that's okay. The replay will be available to you. So let me tell you how this is going to go. One of the panelists just told me to relax. I'm trying. So let me tell you the breakdown of how this is going to go. So there's 6 questions that we're going to answer for you, and each speaker will answer a question. So let me tell you what those questions are. So the first question is, what is homeschooling? I made my little banners. The second question is, questions. What is the paperwork involved and how does standardized testing work? How do you choose a curriculum? What is a homeschool co-op? How do homeschool children get into college? And what are some teaching strategies I can use? So the first 3 questions we will bring forth to you now. Then there will be an intermission and a PSA. And then the other 3 questions we will answer. And then the fun parts, there will be an opportunity for you to participate in our raffle. So we did this panel back in October and the raffle turned out pretty well. So we're bringing that back again. So there'll be an opportunity for you to win a raffle. You may be a winner today. So if you're looking at the chat right now, there should be a link. Go to that link and fill out that form to participate in our raffle. So we will answer your questions at the end of the program, but you can post your questions in the chat now. So as the speakers are talking, you can put your questions in the chat and we will answer them at the end of the program. So I really want to emphasize that raffle. Make sure you sign up for that raffle and we will pull out the winners at the end of the program. And there will be 4 winners. I forgot to mention that. There will be 4 winners, so definitely take advantage of that. And we will include the speaker's information at the end of the presentation. So, with that said, we are going to get started right now. And my first speaker just came in, so I am so excited. So, the first speaker for today, her name is Danielle Miller. And I'm going to tell you about her. So, who is Danielle Miller? Let me tell you who she is. Danielle is a birth doula, lactation counselor, and entrepreneur. She has spent the last 3 school years homeschooling her children. She is heavily involved in her community to help end racial disparities within the maternal wellness sector. So I am going to pull her to the stage right now. Hi, Danielle. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. All right. So you are answering our first question for the day.
Yes.
Is what is homeschooling?
Okay. So, hello, everyone. As you can see, I'm in my car right now. That's the only way I would have got through this without my children interrupting me. This is my safe space right now. So I apologize for the steering wheel and the background and all that stuff. So the first panel in October, I wasn't able to be live. So I'm really happy to be here live. I was away, unfortunately, and had to record something. So I'm just going to kind of touch base on what I spoke about the last time. So that question is, what is homeschooling? I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation and ideas surrounding what exactly homeschooling is. More recently than not, the pandemic really brought out a bad side of homeschooling to me, because they kept calling it homeschooling when really this was pandemic schooling and strictly virtual learning, which are absolutely not the same things. So when people ask me how am I doing it, and how is it possible, and I don't get a break, and how can you have the time to work and be able to educate your children, the answer is simple. It is not structured like school. That's one of the benefits of homeschooling doesn't have to be 7-8 hours of your children sitting down at a desk or in front of a computer. Homeschooling has the flexibility to be able to tailor it to your, not only your needs, but also your children's needs. So I think people have this idea that you have to be sitting down for a while and teaching them like school. But for each age group, there are certain parameters of how many hours you need to be teaching, and really how many hours are they going to sit for instruction. So, for example, my 6-year-old is in first grade and really does only about 3 hours of instruction a day. That's how much he can sit. That's what all we really need to go over our material. And he also attends a co-op 2 days out of the week. I think that I want to emphasize that homeschooling gives you the opportunity to branch outside of the home. And a lot of folks don't realize that that can be such an asset to you, that the library is an asset, the museums are an asset, the trip to the grocery store to pick up ingredients you need for a science project can be an asset. So it creates this situation where you're not confined to home. The name home kind of is deceiving in that way, that you must be present in the house to get done what you need to get done. So homeschooling is really you being the primary educator of your child, and tailoring it to what you and your child need. So for me to be able to work for myself, it would be impossible for me to be sitting with my child for 7-8 hours a day. It just wouldn't work that way. And really, we wouldn't be even able to cover all that material. A lot of public school and private school is tailored to help the workforce, right? Start at a certain time, end at a certain time for working parents. daycare, if you will. My daughter said, did you use school for childcare? And I was like, yeah, everyone does, right? And I think that's where people get anxious about, oh my gosh, I couldn't homeschool because how could I fit in this many hours? And that's not really how it works. So my experience with homeschooling, I would say that my first year was the hardest because we were kind of getting into a groove. We were kind of thrown into it, and I wasn't prepared. I had the same fears and the same anxiety. Am I doing a good job? Am I doing it? Am I giving them enough time and attention? Sometimes there's pushback because it is your own children, right? And you send your children off with other people, and they're like, these kids are angels and they're perfect and their manners are impeccable. And then you're like, my kids, So I think that there's this groove that you get into, this understanding between you and your child, and you find what it is that helps them learn the best, how they absorb the knowledge the best, how they respond to you the best. And once you get into that groove, you can really see the difference between educating your child yourself and sending them outside of the household and the curriculum that you want to follow. Again, I will just touch on the whole pandemic schooling, virtual schooling versus homeschooling. I think that it was unfortunate that the pandemic gave this negative connotation to what homeschooling looked like. And if you know people that were like, oh, it was the worst, I could never do this, this was the worst thing I could ever, this was the worst experience for these months with my child. I think that people need to realize that that wasn't a realistic view of what homeschooling looked like. You wouldn't be having your kids sit in front of a computer for hours on end. You wouldn't be confined. There was a lot of lockdowns, and the library was closed and the museums were closed, and a lot of people did not want to be traveling about in different places. And now things are opening up more. We have more opportunity to explore things again. So I think that if you hear someone sort of speak negatively as far as homeschooling in correlation with what happened during the pandemic, you can educate them on they are not the same. They are not one and the same. Homeschooling and pandemic schooling are not the same thing. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want me to share, but I think that's pretty much my definition of what homeschooling is and what homeschooling looks like.
All right, Danielle, thank you so much for that. That was awesome. Put you backstage. So I'm going to give Danielle a round of applause. Awesome. All right, so next up on the docket is Tamara Somerville, and she is going to answer the question, what is the paper? Well, two questions. What is the paperwork involved, and how does standardized testing work? So, who is Tamara Somerville? Oh, whoops. I got to take that first banner off. Whoopsie. All right, so who is Tamara Somerville? Let me tell you who she is. So, Tamara Somerville is a stay-at-home homeschooling mom and loves her community. She co-founded the Facebook group Westchester Homeschoolers to connect homeschooling moms like herself to other homeschooling moms in Westchester County in order to foster relationships, increase socialization among their children, and navigate the daunting paperwork for homeschooling in New York State. She also co-authored the book African American Families, Why We Homeschool, which is now available on Amazon, and she's working on her solo projects. Lastly, she's currently operating her private consultation business for New York State homeschoolers. So she is getting it done. So Tamara, I'm going to bring you to the stage right now.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How is everybody? Glad to be here.
Good. All right. I'm going to pass the baton to you now.
Okay. Let me just bring my screen up. Okay. So we should be full screen, correct? You can see that?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. So I'm going to be just sharing with you all about some of the regulations and assessments regarding homeschooling. This can be one of the daunting tasks that homeschoolers have to face. It's like once you've made that, stepped over the line and made the decision, okay, yes, I'm going to homeschool, then you get into the nitty gritty of, well, what's required of me? What do I need to submit? Who do I talk to? Where do I get material from? I have to test them. Like, how do I do all that? So I want to help bridge that gap and help alleviate that anxiety. I am in New York. I have only homeschooled in New York, but I want to just give an overview of each state in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., this may not apply. You want to check your own country's regulations. But in the U.S., it is legal.
Donald Somerville.
Sorry. It is legal to homeschool in every single state, but the regulations vary. So if you'll notice, the states that are in green, those are the easiest states to homeschool. They very rarely require you to even submit anything, the state that you are homeschooling, and the colors will go from there. So the light blue, they have very low regulation. The darker blue has some medium, moderate regulations. And then there are the red states. Those would be in the Northeast where I am. They are considered high regulation. And I want to just explain kind of what I mean by high regulation. All of these states, Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, all of these states require that you submit a notice of your intent to homeschool. That can be as simple as one sentence. So while it is a requirement that you have to submit something to your local school district, like I said, it can be as simple as one statement. I, Tamara Somerville, intend to homeschool, fill in the name of the child for the school year 2020, 2021, 2022 for the following grades. It can be literally that simple, just letting them know. And that is sent typically to your superintendent of your local school district, not usually to your school if you're removing your child from a public or private school. So you want to be sure to check where does that notification, who does that notification go to? Almost none of these states require that the teachers have, that you as a parent have any type of teacher requirements, with the exception of Pennsylvania. You must have a high school diploma. And some other states outside of these five do have some qualifications. Most of them will typically just say a competent adult. Usually no further than that. But like I said, Pennsylvania does require you must have a high school diploma. All of these states require that you teach specific subjects. The state sets that standard for what subjects must be taught, but I'm gonna get a little bit more into that when we go over some of the assessments. Almost all these states have an assessment requirement. An assessment is typically a standardized test that you must take or you must give to your students. And now, as this has been a big issue, Pennsylvania is now requiring that even as a homeschooler, you still must submit immunization records. So there are a couple of things that have changed over the course of the pandemic in regards to homeschool regulations. Some of them including during the time when we were on lockdown, because public and private schools were closed as well and could not have the state assessments. Homeschoolers didn't have to do them those years either. There is some rumbling of other states beginning to require immunization records. So continue to make sure you are checking your state regulations. I pulled this information directly from HSLDA. If you're not familiar with them, that is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They are an international group that supports homeschooling families, particularly when it comes to legal requirements. So one of the things you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure you get to know your regulations. And when I say get to know them, I mean actually read them. Read the entire thing, highlight some areas, and not just if you're going to continue to homeschool, you want to read them pretty regularly. So each year, As I mentioned, you saw with the previous chart, some states, all of our high regulation states require that you have that there are certain subjects you must teach, and that may change per grade. So, for instance, they may require you teach fire safety at least once between kindergarten and fourth grade. And then they may require it again at a later grade. So you want to make sure you've caught those minute details. For instance, in high school, there will be either you'll teach like English every 4 years, but science and math maybe every 2 years or 3 years of science and math. So you want to make sure you understand what those regulations are, what's required. Now, in terms of the state mandated subjects, they tell you you have to teach English per se or history. They don't specify what about history you are teaching. So, for instance, you may decide you want to start off. My first year, I figured, well, we're going to teach history. Let's start at the beginning. Let's do ancient history. But then the next year, I didn't want to do world history, so I skipped to U.S. history. Then we ended up going back to world history, and then we kind of started mixing things up a little bit to where we started doing it regionally and working through an entire country and our entire section of the globe from their beginning to their modern time. And so it isn't specified specifically what do you teach. So although it may say 3 years of science, you can choose that's those 3 years are chemistry, physics, and biology, or earth science and physics and another science. You choose what that looks like. Again, that you're given the subject, not the specific material that's covered. So you do have some leeway on that as parents. A couple things I want to make you aware of. Typically, like in New York, there are some forms that you will be getting. So try to use some of the anxieties around, okay, well, how do I report this? There are typical forms that you can either get from HSLDA or from your state homeschool group, or from if you join a local homeschooling group, they can share that information with you. Most school districts are almost all school districts are required to send you a copy of the law, and they will often send you a copy, a format by which you can submit your required information. Just be mindful to match those up. Some school districts, I don't think it's a malicious intent, but sometimes they can ask for information that the regulations don't require you to send, but it makes their life a little bit easier. So something to that effect would be, for instance, in New York, you are required to report the child's age. You are not required to give the child's birth date. However, in one school district I was in, their system, in order to enter the child's age, their system required that you enter the birth date. So when the local homeschool coordinator called me and said, hey, you didn't submit the birth date, I let her know that's not a requirement. She's like, oh, no, it is a requirement. It's needed. I forwarded her the portion of the regulation that said I was not required to do that. We then got on the phone. She called me up and let me know, hey, Miss Somerville, you are correct. It's not a requirement of you. However, our system doesn't allow me to enter the age without that information. Would you mind sharing that? And so I did. But you just want to be mindful of what is expected of you and what is being asked of you, and that those two things line up. But to alleviate some of that, you definitely want to get with a local group, get with someone who can walk you through that. If you are in New York, I can support you with copies of some standard forms you can use for your regulations, including that one sentence letter of intent. One of the second regulations that you're often asked to send in, second forms that you're often asked to send in, is your instruction plan. How do you plan on instructing your student? This can be a list of your curriculum. This may be a scope and sequence of the material that you're using. You want to check your regulations to see specifically how you can format that. But again, you have a lot of leeway here. My very first year, I decided literally 2 days before school started that we were going to homeschool. And so I wasn't prepared budget-wise. I didn't have like a set of curriculum ready to go. And so for history that year, I true fact, put on my instruction plan that we were going to watch the Amazon documentary series, America, the Story of Us. And I think there was a Netflix documentary series, similar, Many Rivers to Cross. That was our history curriculum. I decided to do U.S. history, and then I ended up switching to ancient history. Tried to do that in order. But that it was a streaming series that we were going to watch for history. My instruction plan, including for physical education, was to be outside and get daily exercise. I didn't have specifics on what that was going to look like, and they didn't ask. So I want you just to think of, realistically, we have no idea when our particularly the lower grades, what do our kids do in gym? They run up, like, there. It's not always a specific curriculum of well thought out. You hear the lessons that they're gonna be learning. I remember when I was in school initially, we did have like this annual gym assessment test that you had to pass, but that's been done away with for many years. And one of the other forms that will need to be submitted is a quarterly report. Think of this as like similar to your report card. And I would stress out over this. This was one of the things that really stressed me out as a homeschooler. And I'll tell you, part of that stress was not giving the kids grades. It was feeling like I wanted to ensure that the school district knew that I had, in fact, taught my children. So I wrote this 4-page assessment of all the things that I've done, all the lessons we had gone over, all the places we had gone, so they know, hey, yes, we did, in fact, do work. And then out of sheer laziness, not because they required it, just sheer laziness, I got tired of writing that 4-page report. I remembered around 5th grade, when I was in school, our school changed how they did our report cards. We started getting letters, not A, B, C, and D, but NI for needs improvement, ME for meets expectations, EE for exceeds expectations, S for satisfactory. And so that year, I decided that's what I'm going to use. And they said nothing. When I started homeschooling my youngest son, I decided to try something a little bit different. I gave him numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 being the highest, 4 meaning you needed some work. And again, they said nothing. In reality, when your child comes home with an A, that means they've met the expectations of the school district, of that year, of that teacher. But we really don't know what does that mean as far as what does the child know. It's just to state, okay, based on the work we've planned out, this is how they're doing. But it's not something you need really to stress yourself out over. You can see, because you're with your child every day, really how they're doing. You get an understanding of what they know, what they can produce, and that they are in fact learning. So the quarterly report is just an indication of that, and whichever grading matrix you decide to use is up to you. There isn't a standard for that. And the next thing is the assessments. Again, this is a state approved test. It is a standardized test. The caution here is that this is not a measure of your child's intelligence. It is a measure of what your child has retained, and it's also a measure of how your child reacts to pressure, with the anxiety. Sometimes children have test anxiety. It also can be a measure of your child's testing environment. And so I want to caution you as you're taking these assessments. Again, check your regulations to know what years are required for the assessment. And then each state has an approved list of exams you can choose from. As you're considering which exam to choose, the things you want to consider, some school districts will allow you to actually take the test at the school. I would caution you against that. If your children have not been in that environment before, or they haven't been there all year, it's a bit anxiety provoking to now be put into this giant room with a bunch of students they don't know, and now put on a clock and being forced to take this test. Consider doing testing at home. But even at home, you may want to, some tests, have proctor requirements, like you have the person proctoring the exam needs to have a high school diploma or sometimes a college diploma, a college degree. Consider whether you wanted to have them test online. For the first few years, my children did not test online. They actually tested on paper. But that very first year with my daughter, we tested in a group of other homeschoolers, which she was comfortable with the number with the kids. She had been in co-op with them. She had been on social activities with them, but it was her first time taking a standardized test. And when the other kids finished, she just was like, "Oh, it's time to be done," and she handed in the paper. And the proctor looked at the exam and says, "Oh, well, you're not finished." And she said, "Oh, no, I am. It's playtime." And she just refused to finish the test. And so I switched from doing group assessments to assessing her at home. This year, she's in 10th grade, and we did do online testing. One of the advantages of online testing is you can order the test that day, take the test that day, get the score that day. When you are doing paper assessments, you've got to give time for ordering the test, receiving the test, taking the assessment, and then sending it back in and waiting for the scores to be mailed to you. But this is typically the last thing that you'd send into the school district as far as your reporting is concerned. So you'll have a couple of things. First, your notification, then your quarterly report, which is basically the report card. And depending on what grade you were in, you will either have an assessment that you as a parent can write, just a narrative of how the student is doing, or you may be required to take an official standardized test from an approved list where you'll submit those grades. But it's really not that difficult. The biggest thing is the fear we have of, are we doing this right? This is a legal requirement. Have I completed, have I satisfied all the legal requirements for my child so that they can, if you're looking to have them return to school at some point, you want to make sure they've met all the criteria for that incoming grade that you're going to put them in. Have I taught them enough? And really, the way you are going to build faith in yourself, faith in your ability as a parent, because we're doing this, and we don't necessarily, because we haven't necessarily done it before. We haven't done this grade level before. We haven't done high school before with our students. We've got to build up faith in ourselves, faith in our students. And one of the ways we can do that is by getting to know and arming yourself with the regulations. I mentioned that one time where the superintendent had asked for the date of birth of my children. But the very first real pushback I got, my very first year as a homeschooler, at the end of the year, I sent in my fourth quarter report. I sent in my assessment written by me, and the school superintendent, they actually called me. The superintendent himself actually called me and said, "Mrs. Somerville, you did not submit a standardized test. You're required to submit a standardized test." I let him know, according to the regulations, I am not required to do so. He told me I was wrong, that I didn't understand the regulations. Just that idea popped into my head, I went online as we were speaking. I copied and pasted it to him, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, you're correct." It felt so good to be able to answer his need and to know that I was in fact in the right, that I had done what was required of me, and that he backed off. And the when you get questions like that, when you're questioned either from your homeschool coordinator or your superintendent, and you feel like, "Hey, did I do something wrong?" The best way to answer that question is to go back to your regulations and understand them. So make sure you check out HSLDA. Make sure it is hslda.org, their website. Get your state regulations. Read them each year as the states, the subjects that need to be taught will change. The assessment that you choose, consider what testing environment you want to have. And again, join a local group, join up with a parent. And if you're in New York, I will share with you through Gabrielle the formats that I have used over the last few years. This is 10 years of homeschooling, and I know that this is something that you can do, and it can be a wonderful experience for you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. All right, I'm gonna put you backstage. So I hope you guys are taking all of this information. This is a wealth of information that all of us have put together for you, and all of this comes from years of homeschooling experience. I hope you guys are taking notes. All right, so the next speaker on the docket, her name is Sandra Price Blyden, and she's going to answer the question. Oh, wait, I got to take her banner off. All right, she's going to answer the question, how do you choose a curriculum? So I'm going to tell you about Sandra Price Blyden. So who is she? So she was born on the Caribbean island of Antigua, West Indies. So fellow West Indian. As an infant, she left Antigua and relocated to St. Thomas, which is in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where she currently is a resident. In 1989, she graduated from Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, with a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education. In 2013, Ms. Price Blyden also completed a Master of Science degree in Reading and Literacy from Walden University. She has been an educator in the U.S. Virgin Islands for 30 years. 16 years into her teaching career, she became a literacy coach in charge of implementing the evidence-based reading curriculum on the upper elementary level. After 6 years as a literacy coach, Ms. Price Blyden returned to the classroom to continue her career in education. Then she officially launched her business, Blyden Curriculum Consulting LLC, in 2018. Ms. Price Blyden retired in August 2019 and spends her time enjoying leisure activities and serving the clients of her consulting business. So unfortunately, she wasn't able to be with us today, but she was gracious enough to pre-record her presentation and send it to us. So I will now play her presentation for you.
Good day, everyone. Presenting Curriculum Your Way. I will now share the screen. Curriculum Your Way. What parents need to know about selecting the right curriculum for their homeschool. You have 7 days before your homeschool starts. You have the school supplies, you have desk, chair, cute storage, all your children are ready, the letter of intent, and everything else you need to begin. However, you realize you actually need a curriculum. What is a curriculum? A curriculum officially is a guide that contains a sequence of planned experiences where students are immersed in content and the application of skills. This curriculum must contain goals, methods, materials, and assessments in order to support and facilitate instruction and learning. A homeschool parent may add that a curriculum consists of planned experiences that must be arranged, designed, and organized to fit what her or his family desires and needs at a particular time. The curriculum must be centered around what she thinks is best for the successful growth of her own child. Into what categories can curricula be placed into? And check the gumbo. We have to organize. Philosophy of homeschooling is something that you need to keep in mind when choosing your curriculum. What type of homeschool do you have or think you should like to have? In what ways do you or would you present your content knowledge, present it to your child? What guidelines or methods should you adopt that is a fit for your home? Choosing a philosophy or even deciding not to choose one is simply your choice. You need to take a good look at your child and ask yourself, what is it that he or she needs to keep engaged? What material or curriculum would he or she need to excel in all of the subjects area? Of course, we're still keeping your philosophy in mind if you decide to choose one. Now, right here, I have presented to you all of the different type of methods or philosophies of homeschooling. They are common ones established a long time ago and used today. Unschooling, we have the Charlotte Mason method, a very common one, Montessori method, eclectic method, which simply means you're using a combination of all. That's a huge selection there. School at home, where you're bringing exactly what happens in the traditional school into your home. We have unit studies, the thematic approach, and literature-based methods. Other divisions or type of homeschooling, some people decide to think about their faith and want activities or a curriculum structured around it. Some faith-based curricula include Sunlight, Abeka, BJO Press, LifePack, Easy Peasy Homeschool, that's a free one and very popular, and Alpha Omega Academy. We also have ethnic-based curriculum. There may be parents who prefer a curriculum from only vendors or instructors who are African American, Native American, Hispanic American, and more. It is a way for their child to be immersed in the culture, beliefs, and history of that race or ethnic origin. And we have some examples of these two types, African American and Native American homeschools. We also have Asian American homeschool curriculum, very limited resources on that. And we also have Hispanic American homeschool curriculum. We have Lemon Hass and Nobis Passing. Check them out. Now you will have to consider whether or not you want a printed curriculum for your child, or you prefer that your child use both the online and printed curriculum. Many of them are out there, and you will notice that as you do your search. Now you're going to go through these search engines, think about all of these different things that were just presented, but you also have to make sure that it fits your budget. Now, this is an example of all the different type of, not all of them, but many of the different type of homeschool curriculum that you can find out there. On the right-hand side, we have a listing of the website that you can find many of the books for all of the major subject areas. We have for singular subjects. You could have for just reading, or some of them for math, some are online, some of them are offline. We have over here full and non-accredited, down to the bottom left. We have Power Homeschool, Time for Learning, and Burbella Learning Academy. These are very popular ones. Okay, on the left and middle, we have full and online accredited. We have Maya Academy, very popular. Acellus Academy, Bridgeway Homeschool Academy, those are all accredited. Now, this is one of my favorite images. You can find this online in many of the Facebook groups. Nobody seemed to know where it originated, but this is also a good resource. It shows most of those different type of curricula or methods of homeschooling that I presented earlier. Very important topic, what subjects should you teach? 32 out of 50 states have requirements on what subject to teach, but many of them don't enforce it. So you need to think about the major subject areas, because most of the states have those subject areas, reading, language, arts, social studies, science, and math, as the subjects that you should focus on. One major thing you need to think about is graduation requirements and university requirements. Keep that in mind when you're choosing your curriculum and creating your assignments. Some universities accept credits, certain credits, some don't. So do your research. For things like elective, you can choose the traditional electives like foreign language, art, and math, but as a homeschool parent, you can include fun electives like finance, nature, life skill. Once again, check with your state requirements. A to Z homeschooling. This has great resources and all types of topics about homeschooling, including curriculum in different states, requirements for graduation, everything. And lastly, your 5 non-negotiable. Number 1, please make sure you assess your child. Diagnostic assessments are very important to see if your instruction is working. Number 2, collect data on your child's progress. You need to keep good notes because they may come in handy. It may be requested by your state or your district, and it can help you to do a better job of instructing your child. Number 3, work on that portfolio from the very beginning. Make sure that assignments are not just worksheets, include presentation projects, movement activities, inquiry, and writing. Number 4, if you're curious or if your state requires it, you should also administer standardized assessment. Check with your states to see what the requirement is, but a standardized assessment does give good information. And lastly, choose a set of grade level standards and set personal goals for your homeschool family. Thank you. Good luck on your journey.
Oops. All right, thank you, Ms. Price Blyden, for submitting your pre-recording. So we have completed the first parts of our workshop, and so now we will have a 5-minute intermission. So this is the time where you could go use the bathroom or get a drink of water or whatever it is that you do during intermissions, but now is the time to do that. So in the meantime, as we go through our intermission, again, if you haven't signed up for the raffle, now is the time to do that. The link is in the chat right now. So go to the chat. I think it's the second comment from the top. Click that link and fill it out. Sign up for the raffle in the meantime, and I will draw the 4 winners at the end of the program. So we have made it to our intermission. So take advantage of it, process all this information, and then we will come back to the show. And we're back on. Before we continue, I totally forgot I didn't give Tamara and Sandra their round of applause. So I'm going to give them their round of applause right now. Yes. So now we've reached the second portion of our workshop. So one of the difficult things about doing a workshop like this is that the laws of homeschooling are state specific. So as Tamara discussed earlier, the laws are different in every state. So what may be one way in New York, for example, which is where I'm at, is totally different from Colorado. So it's kind of one of the difficult things about doing panels like this is that there's not one law or set of laws for the whole country. It's like every state has its own rules and regulations. And so it is very important that you know the rules and regulations of your states. Because again, what may be in one state may not be the same way in another state. So I want to take this moment to plug an important resource. We alluded to the name earlier, but I actually wanted to take a moment and shout them out. So the website that we mentioned earlier is hslda.org. That is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. So this is a great resource for you. I encourage you to write it down, memorize it. This website will have everything that you need, and there are counselors that will help you with all that information. So with that said, I created a PSA that will encourage you to learn the rules and regulations about homeschooling. So here it is. Hi, it's Gabrielle. I made this PSA to discuss where to learn about the rules and regulations for homeschooling in your state. So I am going to share a wonderful resource with you that will answer a lot of those questions. So I'm going to put up the website right now. The website that I want you to memorize forever is hslda.org. That is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. So this website will break down the rules and regulations for homeschooling in your state, and in some ways, either other countries as well. I think that it is a great resource for you if you are just starting out to homeschool, or you're curious, or you've been homeschooling for a while and you need a refresher course. And I think it is a great resource, and I am going to show you that resource right now. So give me a second while I share my screen. Okay, so we are looking at the homepage for the HSLDA, and I'm going to show you where you find the rules and regulations. So you're going to go to where it says legal, hover over it, and we're just going to stick to the United States for now. We're going to go to state homeschool laws. And as you see here, there is a beautiful, colorful map of the United States. If you notice that the map is color-coded. So if I look down here, there is a legend, right? And the states that are in dark red represent the highest regulated states. I find that interesting because it's up here in the Northeast in this little pocket here. And then the rest of the country is a little less regulated. So the green is the lowest regulated of the states, and the blues, the light blue and the dark blue, are moderately regulated. So this is an interesting map to look at, and which goes to show you how the laws are across the country. So it's very important that you know the laws of your states, and it is very important for your homeschooling journey. So I'm just going to do a quick example. So New York is my state. So I'm just going to click New York. And as you see here, there is this little chart. And if you go to this little part here, it gives you quick bullet points as to what the regulations are in New York. So of course, so to qualify to be a teacher, a homeschool teacher, for New Yorkers, as the mom, I don't have to have any teaching qualifications, just have to be competent. And there are subjects that I, as a New Yorker, am required to teach my child. And as one option for homeschooling, notification is required. There is no immunization requirement, and there is an assessment requirement. So those are some quick bullet points for New York. And if you click this button here, you'll see there's a whole breakdown of the details, right? So notice of intent, individualized home instruction plan. Just going to skip ahead, file quarterly reports, assess your child annually. So there's an entire breakdown here. And I also want to point out that at the very bottom of this page, there is access to some forms that are great for New Yorkers, which are at the bottom here. So there's the IHIP, there's the notice of intent, there's a quarterly report form. So those are some forms I wanted to point out for those in my fellow state of New York. So let's go to a state that's a little less regulated. I'm just going to pick a random state. So I'm going to pick Wyoming, right? So we have the same bullet chart over here. So there's two options for homeschooling in Wyoming. The youngest age to homeschool is 6. No teacher qualifications. There are state mandated subjects. Notification is required. And a lot of these states have this bullet point where there's multiple options for homeschooling. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. And Wyoming, for example, as you see here, there's 2 options for homeschooling. So there's homeschooling under the homeschooling statutes, which is the private homeschool, the family homeschooling. And then there's homeschooling as a parochial church or religious school. So there are certain types of schools, religious schools that are considered, that are acceptable as homeschools in Wyoming. So that's very important for you to know. So if you're in Wyoming, you'd want to know which option you'd want to use. And again, if you scroll all the way down, there's these model forms that I provided. So there's the curriculum, there's withdrawal from public schools. So these are all sample forms, which you can get when you're a member of the HSLDA. And I'm going to click one more example of a state. So let's get one of these blue ones. So let's get the dark blue one. So let's get Oregon. So we have our bullet chart here for those of you in Oregon, right? There's one option for homeschooling. There's a required assessment here. Same bullet point, and you click this little button, view complete details, and it outlines it here. Notify the Education Service District, test your children in grades 3, 5, 8, and 10, address any disabilities, right? And then we have this notice of intent sample form at the bottom. So I'm kind of running through this pretty quickly, but I also wanted to point out Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is an interesting one because there's 4 types of homeschooling, and there is an immunization requirement as opposed to the other states that don't have those requirements. So for those of you in Pennsylvania, my fellow red state and high regulated state, you definitely want to pay attention to the laws in your states. And for the 4 types of homeschooling, right? So homeschooling under the homeschool statute, right? So that's the family, private, homeschooling, and then there's one with the private tutor. So if you notice, the private tutors, I believe, have to be certified to teach. So you can't just pick anybody. Enrolling your child in a satellite of a religious day school. So religious schools are considered a type of homeschooling as well as a type of boarding school. So definitely Pennsylvania, you want to pay very close attention to that. So I encourage you to go to this website. It is very helpful, and definitely check it out to know the rules of your state. And I recommend that you join the HSLDA as well. It is a financial investment. It is as little as $12 a month. And for that low of a rate, I mean, there's tiers. So the more you pay, the more resources that you get. But for as little as $12 a month, you can get all those lovely forms. You can have someone address your needs one-on-one. You can get help with choosing a curriculum. So you can get that personalized attention from counselors, from lawyers that is at the HSLDA. So they offer a lot of free resources, of course, but to get that one-on-one attention, that specialized attention, it does cost a fee, but if you can make the financial investments, I think it is totally worth it. So that is my PSA of the hslda.org. I highly encourage you to go to the website to learn the rules and regulations of your state and to contact the HSLDA if you have any questions or concerns. And I encourage you to invest in a monthly installment plan to get those personalized details that you need for your state. And that is my PSA. Now, we will return to the program. And yes, we will. But first, I'm going to give myself a round of applause. All right. So our next presenter will answer the question, what is a homeschool co-op? And our presenter is Chris Twing. So let me tell you about her. Who is Chris Twing? She began homeschooling her only child in 2015, both because she wanted to spend more time with them and because the public school was not meeting their needs. They were very advanced in some subjects and behind in others. Now she can't imagine schooling any other way. She has also continued her own education with the goal of teaching history to homeschoolers and the public, focusing on missing voices. She will finish her second master's in history this May and has already taught in numerous volunteer co-ops and as a paid teacher. She also serves as a volunteer at the local museum and on her town's historic preservation commission. Okay, so Chris, are you there? There you
forgot I
are.
was on mute.
All right, you ready?
I am.
All right, take it away.
Gabrielle, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, well, it won't let me turn it into a, here we go. Sorry, technical difficulties. Somebody has to have them, so it was me, now you're all safe. Okay, so what is a homeschool co-op? That's kind of where we need to start. And it's just a group of parents or caregivers, it could be grandparents, whoever's taking care of the kids and taking care of education, and that group of adults works together to provide group education of some type. There's two models. I'm sure we can invent many others, but these are the basics. The first one is a round robin. So think of maybe 5 families, and one week you go to person A's house and they do the teaching, or all the adults do the teaching, but we meet at this house. The next week you go to a different house and either that person does the teaching or everybody teaches, but we're in a different place. The other model is kind of more like a school model. So you'll go to one location every time and different people will teach different things. No matter which way you do it, especially if you're going to drop kids off, and some co-ops are drop off and some parents need to stay, and it's often different for different ages. Make sure you have emergency contact info. So there can be different roles in a co-op. So you're going to need a coordinator or probably multiple of them. You'll need teachers and assistant teachers. Anytime you have a group of kids in a room somewhere, you definitely need at least 2 adults in there. You never know when there's an emergency or, somebody at the last minute has a sick kid and they can't come, so you always want a backup. You'll need people to do setup and cleanup. So oftentimes people say, well, I want to join a co-op, but I don't feel comfortable teaching. Well, there are plenty of other jobs that people can do besides just the teaching. And in one co-op I was in, we even had a hall monitor. So we were in a YMCA and we had like 10 classrooms. And when you've got kids running back and forth to class and to the bathroom, having a hall monitor out there wasn't a bad idea. Most of the time the kids weren't doing anything, but they might, just need an extra hand. So once you decide you're going to join a co-op, how do co-ops decide what to teach? And you can have an academic co-op, co-op that's only electives, or you can do a combination of both. Co-ops have to have an academic calendar, and they can be all year long, where your class is the same class. The same classes are offered through the whole year. They could change by semester, by quarter. You can do a combination. So if you were doing a combination academic and elective co-op, maybe your academic subjects are, your core math, English, social studies, science are all year-long classes, and all your electives change quarterly or semesters. You need to figure out where you're going to have a co-op or where you're going to join a co-op. Some co-ops are in public spaces, some are in private homes. I've been parts of both. The things to think about are, do you have to pay rent if you're in a public space? And even if you're in a private home, do you need some extra insurance? And internet access. So many of the things we teach today and learning opportunities require internet access, either to get the lesson, to make it more fun, to have kids look things up, or different things. And surprisingly, it can be hard to get good Wi-Fi. So if you're going to join a co-op or start a co-op, what are the costs involved in doing this? So one thing I want to address now is, when I say co-op, I mean parents or caregivers getting together to provide group education, and the cost is just what it costs. Nobody's making money on this. So I also am involved, like now I teach at a hybrid homeschool, where we kind of have a university model. So kids do stuff at home through the week. They come and sit with us once a week and we get paid for that. That's not a co-op. A co-op is just covering the cost. So costs could be the rental fees, insurance, and supplies. And when you add those things up, you need to decide, are we going to divide this cost by family or by student? And if you have families that have 5 or 6 kids versus a family that has 1 student, that can make a big difference in cost. And you need to decide, how to equitably share these costs. And if you decide to charge by student, maybe you want to give a price break after the 2nd student or the 3rd student. And that's something that's up to you and what works best. So what kind of supplies do you need for a co-op? And think of the normal stuff, the supplies we all have for homeschooling, school supplies, but you might also need a few other random things. But are you going to get supplies that go for, we're going to have a whole set of supplies for each class? Or are we going to have a community bin that has a few sets of markers, a few sets of scissors, a few sets of all these different things, and everybody comes and gets them when they need them and put them back. There's, your typical supplies. Now, there's oftentimes a case where you need specialized supplies. So maybe you're doing a science class and you need things that aren't in that normal community or normal class supply bin that you have. And so you've got to get those things and decide how they're going to be paid for and all of that stuff. And the last thing is you have to store them somewhere, and somebody has to be responsible for them. And that could be a role for one of those people that said, I don't want to teach, but I'll wrangle all these supplies and get them to the right people at the right time and make sure we have them. Now, supply costs, I've seen it done a couple different ways. So maybe we say each class has a budget of $25 for the teacher to buy the supplies they need to teach that class. And that class could have 5 kids in it, or 2 kids in it, or 10 kids in it. Or they can say, well, however many students you have, we're going to give you so many dollars per student. So like $6 a student, I've got 6 kids and I have a $36 budget. And of course, you can do some combination of this. Now, the one thing people always ask is, what about credits? Do these classes count for credits? So I live in Texas, which is the Wild West of homeschooling. We have absolutely no requirements. We answer to no one. We report nothing, but we also have no help. So like Gabrielle and Tamara were saying, you just have to check with your state. So a big question is, should I join a co-op or should I start my own? And if you can find a co-op that fits your needs, that has room, then definitely join one. And you can find them on social media. You can ask in your homeschooling network, or I imagine in states where the state is involved that they may have a list or something like that. All the ones I've belonged to over the years I found through social media, primarily Facebook. There are Facebook groups for all these different things. And things you want to look for in a co-op is, do you want an academic co-op? Do you want just elective fun things? Because this is a great time. A lot of people say, oh, well, homeschoolers aren't socialized. Well, all the homeschoolers I know are out with other people way more than they're home, and co-op is a great way to do that. For us, it was, a once a week kind of thing, but you can make homeschool. I know our first presenter mentioned that their kids go to co-op twice a week. If you decide that you can't find an existing co-op that meets your needs or has room, then you can start your own. You just need a couple families and relax. It's a learning process, just like figuring out how to best homeschool your own children, and you'll find your groove. It just takes a little time. And the best way to find more people to join your co-op is either through word of mouth or through your social media. So again, the different roles, you got to think about the roles. You got to think, are we going to do academic or elective or combination? Where are we going to have this? What are the costs involved? Set an academic calendar. Those are all the things to think about. And thank you.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for that. I'll put you backstage now. Let me give you your round of applause. Awesome. All right, so the next question we're going to answer is, how do homeschool children get into college? So the presenter, let me turn that off. So the presenter for that one is Tiffany Sams, and I'm going to tell you about her. So who is Tiffany Sams? Tiffany Sams is the daughter of parents from the beautiful islands of Jamaica and the Sea Islands of South Carolina. She grew up in Edison, New Jersey, and is an Agnes Scott alumna. She has 10 years in the legal field, including juvenile mediation and remediation programs. She also has 10 years experience in child advocacy, high school mentorship, and education. She's been a resident of Atlanta, Georgia for 20 years. She's a mom to a 5-year-old explorer And along with her co-founder, Regina Johnson, she opened the Academy of Pivotal Learning in September 2021. So she just opened that school this year, y'all. That is dope. All right, so I'm going to bring her to the stage. Hey, Tiffany, how you doing?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
Good. All right. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. I do want to thank you for putting together this well-needed information session and conference. So we've had some great speakers that talked about topics that address all homeschoolers. My topic, though, is specifically geared towards high schoolers. So you've done a lot of great work as a parent. You've gotten them through 8th grade, and now they're going into their college-bound years. So then the question is, what important steps do I need to take in order for my child to get into a tech school, college, or a university? Unfortunately, I am probably the only person without a visual today, so I will speak slowly to ensure that everyone who's listening grasps all the important points. So first, which is very important, we heard Ms. Somerville even talk about planning and mapping. And so in essence, that is a vital point of preparing your child for college. You want to create a college-friendly transcript. And when it comes to a transcript is simply an outline of what your child has done during their 4 years prior to college. So if you make a habit of keeping really good documents, there are portfolio templates that you can get online. The HFLDA has some great templates there, and you can actually download the template and fill in as needed. So you're creating an overview of what your child has done. So you need to first identify what school, college, or tech school, university, college, or tech school your child wants to be admitted to. Now, why is that important? Because every school's requirements are different, even if they may be in the same state. So for instance, here in Georgia, we have Georgia Tech University, and we also have Georgia State University. The requirements on math and English might be different. Science may be different. So you need to know where your child wants to go and make sure that you align their curriculum from 9th grade all the way up until they finish 12th grade to match that of the school that they're trying to be admitted to. Typically, you're looking at 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, 3 to 4 years of science. And of course, there's also that dreaded GPA. There's tools online that will help you calculate your student's GPA and also make it part of their transcript. So you essentially want to create a roadmap that lines up with those requirements. A great way to do that is to visit the Board of Education, your state Board of Education website. It will let you know all graduating students must have these certain classes or requirements. And then now you want to add in the additional classes that might be necessary for your student. The great thing about homeschooling a high school child is that oftentimes they may have to do classes that have nothing to do with what they want to go to school for. Your child wants to be an engineer. Perhaps they're creative. The great thing about homeschooling is that you can craft their curriculum to match them personally and also to align with what they want to do in their post-secondary journey. So you can go to the Board of Education website. You want to couple that with the website or the information that you can obtain from the school, the university, or tech school that they want to go to. Ensure that you understand the standards, what's required, and it's usually outlined there on the state website. Here in Georgia, I can go to the Georgia Board of Education, and I can see that every child in the state of Georgia is required to have 4 years of English, certain math, etc. But again, you also want to match that with the school that they're going to or that they hope to be accepted to. Another topic that comes up a lot of times for homeschool students is the SAT, the ACT. Can a homeschool student take the SAT or the ACT? The answer is yes. You would register online just like any other brick and mortar child would. The only difference is when it asks for the code for the school, you use the code 970000 for the ACT, I'm sorry, for the SAT. And for the ACT, 969-99. Now, this information you can find on the website, so it wouldn't be the only place you hear it, is here. So your homeschool student can, in fact, take the SAT or the ACT. They would register online. They may or may not be required to demonstrate or to show their portfolio, but just keep that in mind that your student can do that. Some schools are getting out of the ACT and the ACT and SAT. Some schools are now using what's called AccuPlacer, and that is something that's very school specific. So it is a test that's driven or formulated by the specific school. They use that test to understand where they can accurately place your child in school, in that particular school. Will they need to take remedial classes? And they essentially test it out of freshman English. Those are the things that that AccuPlacer would ascertain or determine. And then, of course, the issue about a diploma comes up. So more times than not, there are, I don't want to say diploma mills, but there are umbrella schools that will generate a diploma for a homeschool student once that student has graduated. Let me go back. Before we even get there, we want to make sure that the transcript that you're going to submit to the school is neat, organized, and notarized with the notary seal. A lot of schools, and I'll get down to the comparison between the light blue states and the dark red states in a little bit, but a lot of them are okay and they are homeschool friendly. They will take that type of transcript and also a diploma that is generated or created. There is certain language that needs to be used on the diploma that is state specific. And again, you want to refer to the HSLDA website so you can get guidance on what the diploma should say for your particular state. There's certain language that they will not allow you to use if your child has in fact received home instruction versus brick and mortar instruction. Just a few things that I want to add in. Homeschool students can do dual enrollment. In the state in which I reside here in Georgia, homeschool students qualify for dual enrollment. They receive college credits while they're in high school, or while they're doing home instruction. So that's also something you can look into. It's a great segue into four-year university, 2-year. Your student is getting accustomed to that type of curriculum from a post-secondary perspective. So that's something you may be able to look into in your particular state. But again, it is done state by state. There is a test called the CCLEP, College Level Examination Program or test that allows your child to test into a dual enrollment program. But again, check your state. We talked about high school transcript. High school transcripts, again, be organized, get yourself a template and utilize that. And then finally, I've been asked to make some comparisons from state to state. Again, I'm in Georgia, and some of our speakers are indeed in New York. So I'm just going to give you some quick comparisons to the difference of what happens in Georgia, which is a light blue state, to what may happen in, or what's required of a parent and student in a maroon state. In Georgia, the parents are allowed to submit a homeschool portfolio as proof of secondary education. That is unlike in New York, where a student may have to take a Regents test or the TASC, T-A-S-C, that is a test assessing secondary completion. They would have to complete that in order to receive a high school diploma from the state of New York. The state of Georgia doesn't require that. They allow the parents to do the transcripts and also the diploma. In the state of Georgia, a high school student can receive Hope Scholarship. That allows a student who has a certain GPA to basically receive scholarship money for their post-secondary education. In the state of New York, they have a really neat scholarship called the Excelsior Scholarship that allows for most students that graduate from high school. They just have to have graduated from high school in the United States and live in New York. But however, because you have to have a state diploma, you would want your student, if you're in New York, to take as many of the TASC or State Assessing Secondary Completion tests for those subject matters. So that will give them their diploma at the end, and then they could qualify for financial aid. So we've talked about transcripts, diplomas, dual enrollment, taking the SAT or the ACT, which is definitely possible for homeschool students, and then also building a curriculum, which has already been talked about, so I won't get into that. Again, curriculum requirements for your students. You need to look at what's required in the state and couple that or fill in with the college, university, or tech school that they would like to go to. The good news is that COVID has brought about a lot of changes in people's perception of homeschool and even homeschool students. A lot of them are becoming a lot more friendly. So do your research in the state that you live in and rest assured that your homeschool student can indeed go to college, university, or tech school going through home instruction. Back to you, Gabrielle.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put you backstage, and I'm going to give you your round of applause. Awesome. All right, we have made it to the final question of the night, which is, what are some teaching strategies I can use? Right, so we're trying to figure out how to spruce up your teaching. So what are some teaching strategies I can use? And our presenter for that, her name is Jan Sixth. She has a fascinating last name. So I'm going to tell you who she is. Who is Jan Sixth? Have you tried to explain an assignment to your child only to find that your explanation wasn't understood? Did you lose your child's attention? Did both of you walk away frustrated? Oh, my voice is going. Were your child's needs still not met? Here comes our speaker, Jan Sixth. On her website, jstutor.com, she created over 1,200 educational videos for ages preschool through 12th grade in a variety of academic subjects. She also teaches parents how to teach basic foundational concepts calmly and smoothly when helping with schoolwork. Her philosophy is that homeschoolers learn best with a well-organized curriculum that pairs strategy with fun videos. Final point I want to make is Jan has been a teacher for over 45 years. That is awesome. So I'm going to bring Jan to the stage. All right, Jan, you ready to go?
I am.
All right, take the floor.
Well, my segment is not state specific. So all of what I'm sharing tonight with you will go across the country. You, as a parent, are going to have a learning curve too. And actually, it's very invigorating. The longer I teach, the more I realize that the subjects intertwine. So learning, let's say, punctuation rules are also going to be transferable into understanding and reading story problems. So the efficiency of the techniques some of them that I'm going to share with you tonight are coupling the class that you're actually teaching with where that skill could take you into different subject areas. And since you're the whole show here, you're the teacher of all, it's more efficient to couple what you're doing in one subject with another. That's where your learning curve has to come in. You're going to need to understand how what basic foundational pivotal skills are transferable into other subject areas. So that's really what I want to be talking to you about tonight. So I've put together kind of a list of things to give you some examples. what kind of things, what kind of items in your home can you use that are quick to grab, that can help you facilitate these messages? For example, you might use your measuring cups to teach fractions, but as a life skill, those are cooking instruments, and many of you do the cooking classes too with your kids. Money could help with adding and subtracting, but on a life skill basis, it's making change. Your clock, teaching time, and if you do that, I suggest that you teach the analog clock with the digital clock at the same instruction, because your students will see both. So as a class for probably an early elementary school student, perhaps a toddler or a preschooler that's 4 years old or so, the telling time could be also a time management skill for your life skill side of that. So reading the clock and time management. Board games are wonderful. The kids think that they're playing, but you can teach color, counting with the steps, the addition when you roll dice, symbols. In a life skill way, you could teach sportsmanship with that, or just how to be a gracious winner as opposed to a gracious loser. Playing cards are some of my favorite manipulatives. I found this great big, they're huge cards, probably for people playing cards in my generation. Aces are ones in my world, but I use playing cards as my flashcards. They're easy to manipulate. You can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, facts very easily with a deck of playing cards. And you can also use them for sample problems. If you are doing a division, let's say a long division problem, your child could actually make the problem him or herself. Maybe this would be, if I put the cards out, maybe I would have 127. This works better on a flat surface, divided by 9. So a textbook isn't actually needed in this case. You can do this on the fly. And the cards are great for when you're waiting in a restaurant after you've ordered your food, or wherever you have some little downtime. Other manipulatives that are around your house. Here's Scully. Scully's made of paper plates, but you can see that he's labeled. All of the bones are labeled. This is a great art project. It's also a manipulative and a Halloween decoration too. In this case, I took a floral arrangement cube and we did surface area. The kids could cut out the actual pieces that would cover this. These could be measured, and the surface area could be calculated because all of the flat pieces you see, you have 2 rectangles that are the same size. The other side of the rectangle had a slightly larger. You can see that this was slightly larger than the other. And then, of course, we have the end pieces. So it gives this surface area of a shape that is actually touchable. A lot of the textbooks show it as a 3-dimensional figure, but it's hard to see the back and so forth. But this could be an art project and a math arrangement. Okay, so those are just some examples of what I've put together. If you, again, this could be an art project with a geometry. We're showing here, you could group these as triangles, which is not a triangle. Perhaps your child is going to see this one as it doesn't match. You could do it by colors. You could sort by shape, by number of sides. Here, all of these three are quadrilaterals. They're all four-sided figures. And then as we get up into the upper grades, we're adding more things to these triangles where we're actually measuring right angles and the 30-60s, and on this one, the 45-45 90-degree triangle. So that initially at a younger age, the children are recognizing shapes, seeing what's the same and different. And then in the upper grades, we're actually taking them apart and noticing angle measures and possibly perimeter and area of these shapes. So a concept that starts out at a preschool level with just recognizing the shapes and naming them gradually goes up through the grade levels with area and perimeter, then surface area. And when you get up into your high school level, you're into geometry where you're doing two parallel lines cut with a transversal. In fact, I can show you these manipulatives over here. My blackboard is kind of shrouding these for a minute, but you can see that we have all the slopes on those, which could also be an art project where the kids make their own. Okay, I'm gonna get this back on there. Hey, it worked, it went on. Here's another thing that's very usable. It's efficient. When you're teaching story problems, you're looking to see where the numbers are in the problems. And there's also a vocabulary word that points you to the operation of addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. In this case, I have lined up the multiplication and the division words that you're most likely to see in those problems. My suggestion would be to have your child take notes on these so they have a word bank of words that mean multiplication, words that mean division, and have that in front of the paperwork in front of him when these story problems are read. So the identification is, I'm purposely looking for the numbers in this problem. I'm purposely looking for a word that suggests the operation. And it's a lot easier for that child to have written this down and keep it in front of them. If the story problem has an inferred message, perhaps one of these vocabulary words would trigger your child to understand that multiplication is actually you're going for a larger answer with this. So that's an algebra principle. As opposed to division, where we start out with the biggest number in the problem and we're getting a smaller answer than the biggest number that we start with. Here in multiplication, the largest number is going to be the answer. So when you've got duplicate words like sets, each, rows, groups, those are common in both the multiplication and the division set. That can be confusing. So your child would have to think a little farther into, do I need a smaller answer with this, or do I need a larger? And some of the other words, like, am I splitting or sharing, or perhaps separating fairly or separating equally, those coupled with groups or rows or each would give a secondary clue. So an efficient way to teach that story problem is to have the word banks of the operation clues and stress that. First, you look for the numbers in the problem, which are sometimes written as words and not numerals. And then looking for a clue word to give the operation. It's very efficient. And it doesn't frustrate your child either, because he actually has a way of, a roadmap to follow. I've tried to give you some of those examples. Another thing that I want to share with you is these basic pivotal skills are your tools of any subject. To know how your tools work and where to use them and apply in different subjects is really the key to you being successful as a homeschooling parent, especially when you're a newbie. It's pretty scary the first year, and you don't have to teach everything. But if you understand what the basics are, you're going to be better off. So let me share a little bit about that. In one of the books that I wrote, and I don't have a copy of it right here with me, should have brought it, but that's in the raffle baskets. I start every chapter with, if I could only know one thing about spelling or writing, it would be, and I've shared with you the pivotal skill in that book. For example, spelling, your basic pivotal tool is phonics. Grammar, the parts of speech. For reading, you need a purpose for reading. Are you reading for factual information? Perhaps you're finding the numbers in those story problems. Are you just reading to broaden your awareness of life? Or are you reading for pleasure? If you're reading fiction, then you're going to be working with the elements of the story. Those would be what you would stress if your child was reading a fictional story. A nonfiction would be for note-taking, and that would be your science or your social studies. That's the next thing I have in my paper is science and social studies. So your pivotal skill would be how to take notes. What is the author, the important parts that the author is stressing? And many times in science and social studies, you're working with specific vocabulary. Knowing the vocabulary unlocks the discipline. For writing at an early age, your child needs to know how to make the letters. So it's a printing, and hopefully you'll work cursive into your curriculum. There's a special way that I teach the letter making. I do it by the shape of the letters. And if you're going to teach cursive, it's not as efficient to teach the A, then the B, then the C, then the D. Group all the letters that have a circular look to them, like the A's and the O's. And you would be paying attention to letters that basically have tails to them. If you group those together, you're going to find that your teaching is much more efficient and effective. With writing at an upper level, the pivotal skill to that one is sentence structure. I teach 3 basic sentence structures that serve a child in the younger grades, in the elementary grades, all the way through high school and life. They are the simple sentence structure, compound structure, and a complex. All of these are available. You can research them. And if you go to my website, I have made the videos specifically for this purpose. Math has, if you could only know one thing about math, I would have to say it would be the multiplication tables. to truly teach those well to your children. That with that, you can go into divisibility, understanding fractions, decimals, polynomials into the high school level. But I see more and more children, if they're stumbling on math in the upper grades, I'm talking fourth, fifth, and upward, they probably have never nailed those multiplication tables. Math has a lot of subsets as far as I'm concerned with importance. If you teach the place value, it's a big one. I have place value houses up here when I teach that through a series of what I call townhouses. If your child made this, they would actually see the rooms for the townhouses. Those are explained again in the book and in my videos. That could be an art project for your child, and then it's part of the notes that your child will be owning that information. So place value is a very important skill. The facts of addition, subtraction, and division are also important, but multiplication, I would say, is the most usable. We really want to know what these different pivotal skills, how they work, the behavior of the comma, the behavior of a noun. How does this relate to the other words in the sentence? When do you use a semicolon? And math is a subject that has a lot of behavioral aspects to it. Positive and negative numbers, those have a specific behavior to them. And if you teach the basic rules for that, you're going to find that that other subjects related to math are much easier to understand. The behavior of some algebra concepts literally start in the first grade. Whenever you have a problem with 2 plus box equals 7, you are using an algebraic formula. Beyond the actual disciplines, as to really round out a child, we're really trying to teach them how to think independently. And that also connects with organizational and study skills. But anytime that you take with your child with these basic, foundational, pivotal skills is going to serve your child as they go through the grade levels. And your input into their education will not be as intense in the older grades because they will be on autopilot. Thank you.
And thank you. That was awesome. Let me put you backstage now. I'm going to give you your round of applause. Woo! And that's it for the speaker portion. So now we're going to take another intermission. I want you guys to process all that you heard today. You got a wealth of information. I know you got to process all that. So now we're going to take another intermission. And during this intermission, I encourage you again, if you haven't signed up for the raffle already, sign up now. The link is in the chat. It's in there several times, but I can always put it again. So definitely, if you haven't signed up for the raffle, I will be picking the winners after the break. So click that link and sign up for the raffle. So we're going to start our intermission, and then we're going to get to the fun part. And sorry, I should mention as well, after the raffle, then there will be the Q&A. So I noticed no one has put any questions in the comments yet. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we will get to those questions as soon as possible. So we're going to start the intermission, then we're going to have the raffle, and then the Q&A, and then the closing. So. And we're back. All right, the raffle is now closed. No more submissions. All right, so let's start the draw. Oh, wait, let me get my little banner. Oh, wait, I want it to scroll. My scrolling banner, there it is. All right, so let's get started. So there will be 4 drawings. So let's do this. Okay, my first one is number 12. So the first winner is Mary W. from Wisconsin. So congratulations, Mary W. from Wisconsin. The next one is number 1, which is Megan B. from Florida. Megan B. from Florida, congratulations. Next one is number 3, which is Shelly B. from Pennsylvania. So Shelly B. from Pennsylvania, congratulations. And last drawing is number 10, which is Megan B. again. Wait, is that the same person? All right, I'm going to double check this one. I'm not sure if it's the same person from Pennsylvania. But let me just do one more just in case. Cassie L. from Massachusetts. That's Cassie L. from Massachusetts. All right, so congratulations to those winners. So that is Megan B. from Florida, Shelly B. from Pennsylvania, Cassie L. from Massachusetts. I'm not sure if this is the same person, but there's another Megan B. from Pennsylvania. So I'm going to double check that one. And Mary W. from Wisconsin. So congratulations, you guys are the winners to our raffle, and I will be contacting you individually to discuss instructions to how to get your prize. All right, so that's it for the raffle, and now the most important part of the program is the Q&A section. I want that one to scroll too. So now, see, there it is. So now we've reached the question and answer portion of our program. So now I'm going to bring everyone onto the stage. Danielle, I don't know if you're there, but okay. But we're doing our question and answer program. Question and answer.
I'm here, but I do have
there you are.
I do have a baby attached to me at the
All right, multitasking, fabulous. All right, let's see if you have any questions again, put them in the chat. So right now, I don't see any questions. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but as you guys are getting your questions together, I will just throw some questions out there. So anyone can jump in. So I mentioned this, I asked this in the last panel, but I'll just repeat it again. Can all of you discuss what are some reasons that people choose to homeschool as opposed to trying different types of traditional schooling? So can you guys discuss why people choose to homeschool?
Well, I'll start. There's a couple of pretty standard ones in terms of safety, bullying, curriculum, particularly when it comes to history. For me, it was slightly different in that, and I think it was Chris mentioned something similar. I actually want to spend more time with my kids. So, but some of the standards of safety and bullying and drug use and school shootings, a lot of those things have come into play a lot in the recent years.
Anyone else want to chime in?
I know for me, my journey was a little different. I never really wanted to homeschool. I like my children, but I'm not gonna lie, sometimes they're driving me crazy, right? I just feel like my daughter actually does better with an outsider than with me. unfortunately, my state changed a lot of regulations due to vaccines, and I really didn't have a choice. So we had 3 months to make a decision of whether or not we were going to give in to what they were asking us to do when they eliminated religious exemption, or homeschool. And I knew a lot of folks that ended up going against their beliefs because they felt like they had no choice but to do that so that their children would be able to attend public school and private school, because it was both public and private. So I know one of the reasons for me, and I think most of the people I know in the homeschool community right now where I live is because of the vaccines.
Sometimes it involves illnesses or health issues. I'm a private tutor, but I've also worked for school districts in several different states where if a child is absent for some health reasons, surgeries, broken bones, truancy, I don't know, mental, sometimes there's emotional and mental components to these, teen pregnancies. The school districts have to provide home instruction for these children. And I found that if a child is out of school for a protracted period of time, they obviously get behind. And you surely will be seeing this with the COVID shutdowns. At any rate, some of these states only give 5 hours of instruction a week to high school kids, and that's very difficult to do, to teach all of that curriculum in 5 hours of work to a child who is ill. So I learned that these pivotal skills that I was talking about before are so efficient. I'm able to get children back on par and slip back into school with their peer group. But what I've really noticed is how much time is wasted in school and how much more efficient you can be in a situation where you're teaching your child. So that might also be a reason for a parent to consider.
And if I might add, in the school systems, teachers...
All right, can you speak up a little bit, Tiffany?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. In the traditional school, teachers are taught what's called to differentiate. And that means that they try to customize content to suit a child's learning style. Now, if we think about school systems or schools these days, classrooms have upwards of 35, 40 kids in a classroom. So how effectively can a teacher really differentiate for the kids that are tactile, the children that are auditory, the children that are visual? It's not that it's impossible, but being in a homeschool situation, you know your child best and you know how they learn best. So you can really customize that learning experience for them that meets their learning needs. So I think that's also, I know for us, that's the reason that we've made that decision. Because I did say that I was parent to a 5-year-old explorer. My son touches everything. If he were to go to a regular school, and that's how he learns then, if he were to go to a traditional brick and mortar, that would cause a lot of problems for some teachers, right? They wouldn't know how to moderate that or how to navigate that. So in short, knowing your child's teaching style, your child's learning style, and the flexibility that homeschooling really provides you as a parent for your child, I think is also one of the reasons that people use home.
All right, Chris, do you want to chime in?
They kind of already covered it, but I wanted to spend more time with my child because I have an only child. So when they got to 10 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, they're leaving next week. And that child was very, very advanced in anything reading and writing, and they wouldn't allow them to, read at their level. There was a cap, and had them in advanced math classes when they didn't learn those multiplication skills. And Jen is so right. This has been the bane of our existence. And we're now a junior in high school, and they didn't stop to figure that out. So you can sometimes we always think, oh, well, that was a problem, that they weren't keeping up, but it can also be that they were not allowed to go as fast and as quickly as they wanted.
Awesome. All right, so I'm seeing the questions come in. This is awesome. So let's do it. I'll just turn off the banner here. And let's get to it. So this one says, should I pay for a curriculum for a preschooler? Well, she did a 2-part one. Or maybe just make one of my own. Anyone can jump in.
I would never pay for a curriculum for a preschooler. This is the prime time for learning is play, and you can do shapes and colors and counting and letters and all of that just in their average day to day. And if you love Pinterest, there are a billion ideas for preschoolers.
What you should pay for is getting yourself up to speed as a parent, understanding the child development and what a child is able to do. They change so quickly between birth and 6 years old. I'm sure that many of you know that. And what you're working with is muscles that can't hold a pencil. That's why they have those big, thick crayons and pencils, because you don't have those motor skills. But if you realize that that's a developmental skill and that you're trying to advance your child, you're going to need to be alert for those readiness times when your child is able to have that developmental muscle controls, and then advance him into the next phase of it. So you're going to need to really understand what you're looking for, and then also take your classroom as really your home and your neighborhood, and take every opportunity to speak to your child with real vocabulary, and call it a linoleum floor, if you can pronounce linoleum. I always get twisted up with that one. But, say instead of a bug, call it a caterpillar. Use the vocabulary, and you'll see how your preschooler is going to thrive.
Awesome. And I will say it also depends on your state, because I know for New York, there are predetermined curriculums, and there's a whole list of it for New York, and I would assume for the other highly regulated states. So you could just pick from any one of those if you're in the highly regulated state. For the other states that that doesn't have that much paperwork, maybe I shouldn't say the word strict, that doesn't have that much paperwork, it's just doing something simple as doing your research. Right? There's a plethora of curriculums that you can use. It is out there. And if you were here earlier for Sandra Price Blyden's video presentation, there was a whole list that she put there, and some are free and some you have to pay for. So it all depends on your child and what kind of learner your child is. Is your child more visual? If your child is more if your child is a visual learner, maybe something that incorporates more videos, right? And there's a lot of online schools and online academies that have a lot of videos. If your child is more of a textile learner, you might want something that has a lot of manipulatives. If your child is more of an auditory learner, could also be videos, maybe a random podcast, I don't know. So it all depends on your child and how best they learn. And again, there is a plethora of curriculums that are out there. So depending on the state that you live in, whether there's a list for you to choose from or you have to find your own, there's paid and there's free. So, you don't have to go straight to the paid right away. There's the free ones first. But also, again, it depends on the type of learner your child is.
In your raffle bag, I sent in one of the books that I wrote. It's Teach a Preschooler to Learn. And in that book, I actually researched the nationwide, the most common social, physical, and academic or cognitive skills that school districts are looking for from their incoming kindergartners. And those are things like being able to hold a scissors or cut with a scissors, or let me think what some of them are. I would say tie your shoe, but that's with Velcro, you don't have that so much anymore. But these being able to hop or skip, that they're looking for those physical development in their incoming, hoping that those kids come in with these skills. And then in the book, I've showed you how you can actually stimulate your child to meet those requirements. But whether you send them to a public school or you're homeschooling, you're still going to need to be aware of what social, cognitive, and physical skills are good.
Oh, Jen, you froze on us. She froze on us. All right, so I hope you guys are taking note of this. All right, this is a similar question, but I guess we can adjust this. I just took my 9th grader out of school for homeschool and need a curriculum. I'm also working from home, but work a lot of hours. So I need something turnkey online and keeps track of what is completed. Any suggestions? Oh, Tiffany, did you want to say something? I'm sorry. You put your hand up before.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Anyone want to take a jab at that one?
I would look at the list from the earlier presenter. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, but she had
Sandra.
A great shot of the different options.
And I would also add there are different programs that. Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah, just speak a little louder.
That's so bizarre.
Just scream into the computer.
There are some. there are some online programs that allow parents to see in real time what the students are doing and how to track the students. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yeah,
it's better.
I'm sorry.
Just speak as loud as you can.
Okay. So there are programs that allow you to track your students. 9th grade is 8th grade is a pivotal time, and 9th grade is really important, right? Because we're looking at tracking what they're doing to go into something later if they choose to do that. So curriculums can be purchased, but can always go to your state board of education and get the standards that needs to be taught, and then you can go from there. The idea that you have to get a curriculum, nowadays teachers aren't really using a curriculum. They see what needs to be taught and they create a syllabus and they move from there. So the idea of this curriculum thing is intimidating to a lot of parents. If you understand the state standards, now you just have to figure out how to teach it. And then from a parent who has who's working a lot of hours, I don't want to make a plug for my school, but we have 9th graders. And but there are programs that allow the parents in real time what the child is doing. Some kids do not do well moderating themselves. They simply don't. And for a parent who's working a lot of hours, it's important that they can see that Jonathan submitted his homework, et cetera, et cetera. So do some research in your state to see which ones are acceptable for a high school student.
All right, Tamara, if you want to chime in.
Can you hear me? I know my video keeps going out, but can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I would piggyback on what was just shared. Your best bet is probably an online curriculum that's monitoring. However, I would caution you, online learning kind of gave a lot of students a bit of pause because of the pandemic. So you want to make sure you can be there for them when you can. Be there to check on how they're doing, see if they're getting their work submitted on time, to see if help them create a schedule so that they can do it. They can monitor themselves, and try to look for something that they can do outside of the computer so that they do have some interactions with other students, particularly at that age. So it's a great opportunity to both continue to work and get your children, meet your children's education needs. But I would definitely make sure that there is some monitoring on your side of your student, that they don't feel like they're left alone, and definitely some opportunities for them to meet with other students and to engage with other students physically.
Sorry about that. All right. So I see a lot of the questions here are about curriculum. So again, I'm going to ask you guys to refer to the earlier presentation by Sandra. She gave a whole list of those. And there are online academies that kind of teach for you. So there's definitely a lot that are out there. So this one is about curriculum, but there's so I'm going to kind of twist this one a little bit. I'm currently in the process of removing my child from public school this week. My question is, how do I do it with the curriculum in the middle of the school year? I was leaning towards unschooling a bit. So we're not going to address the curriculum part, but if you guys can address pulling a child out in the middle of a school year and even unschooling. And she also gave a secondary part. He's a first grader. Okay, go ahead.
If I can just add, because it is the holiday break, take the time and actually take a break. Please do not jump right into, I pulled them out and now here's a book. And by the way, it's Christmas time and we're going to spend this whole time trying to figure out what to do. Please take a break. Please give yourself, your child a chance, particularly since they're so young anyway, give a chance to adjust to the new reality of being homeschooled. They have spent, even though they're just in the first grade, if they've been in preschool, they've already been in a school setting for at least 2 to 3 to 4 years. So this is an adjustment for both you and for them. Please take a break. Please give yourself some time to figure out what you want to do. And first grade is not too old where you can still play with them. You can still get a chance to, you don't have to come up with something immediately. If you're heading towards unschooling anyway, that may be a great way to just start. Find a group, hang out with some other kids, hang out with some other parents. You need homeschooling parents just as much as your child needs homeschooling friends. So please take a break. Please find your new tribe. And get to know your child again, because you have a new dynamic. You have been just mom. Now you're about to be mom and teacher, and give yourself time to make that change.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, to add on to that, so again, it depends on your state, and especially where I am and we don't have a lot of rules, people will suggest, and this is usually for older kids, but like she was just saying, your child may have been in school for up to 4 years already. So that's their normal. And so deschooling is an idea that a lot of people will take if they pull their kids out in the middle of the year. And that is, pretty much just doing what I suggest doing with preschoolers, which is, work a little bit of knowledge in there where you can, but let them do the fun thing. Now, this definitely includes the parent being involved. You can't just send them off to, do whatever it is they want all day long, which for my child would just be on a video game all day. But you can even find, ways to learn in a video game. There's lots of things with Minecraft and all kinds of things. So deschooling is an option. And if you are in a state that where you have to choose a curriculum, maybe, then I would look at those state standards and try to figure out with the child's teacher, what did they cover already and what didn't they? In first grade, what are the skills they're learning in math? okay, they've already done these 3 things, but they haven't done these 2, so I'll work those in. But yeah, and absolutely take the holiday break, and even a little extra one if you can get it in there.
Anyone else want to chime in? Okay. And we are kind of pressed for time, so this one is about curriculum again, but let's see what we can do with this one. Can you describe your experience using a curriculum for a second language? Is it video-based, private tutoring, etc.? So I don't know if you guys can speak to, I don't know if you guys speak other languages. Oh, you do, Tiffany? Okay. I don't know if you could talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
A little louder. Scream into the computer.
This is so weird. Okay. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
My third language is Swahili, and I also teach it. And basically found a book that addresses the language that I'm teaching, and then I developed a curriculum based on the competencies in the book. And I did that for my 5-year-old. He now can speak almost fluently Swahili. So as I mentioned, we also teach it in our school. I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. You do not have to, there's not a lot of online curriculum for second language outside of French and Spanish. So my suggestion would be, there are books for learning a language for a child, Swahili for children, Spanish for children. And then from there, you can build in some great culture activities. You can also just, follow the outline, learn the pronouns, learn the adjectives and things like that. And then something we did this when I was younger. You take a sticky note and you put it around the house with the things in the house so that they're now seeing it, and you call it that while you're in the home, right? So the hospital is hospitality and the doctor is daktari in Swahili. You just keep saying it, repetition, they'll get it. So they probably won't be able to find a curriculum outside of French and Spanish for a little person, but buy a book and then fashion it for your child. That's the great thing about homeschooling.
I homeschooled 2 of my grandchildren through their primary years, and they were taking French with their parents. I did not know French, but at lunchtime I used to turn on YouTube videos. There are a lot of elementary or preschool kinds of sites on the YouTube, and that was really fun. And the sandwiches went down pretty easily too.
Yeah.
One thing I was surprised to learn is that a lot of the traditional textbook publishers, like if you think of Holt McDougall or I can't even remember what they all are, they actually offer a homeschool package. So when we did Spanish, which I took years of Spanish a long time ago, so I knew enough, but not enough to be speaking to where my child's going to get that. And so I pulled, and I'm a very eclectic homeschooler. So I got a curriculum from a regular textbook publisher, and I ended up with a teacher textbook, and all of these videos and worksheets and activities. Like, I was amazed. There was way more than I could ever use. And then different, like the whole hybrid homeschool I'm at, we're looking at bringing in a Chinese teacher next year. So there's all kinds of online options. I definitely think they need to be around someone that can speak the language. If you don't, as their parent, then you need to get them in with somebody that does, and that can be online or in person, doesn't matter.
Yeah, one of the things that have been coming up a lot lately for a lot of our homeschool students, once they've started learning a language, I think Jan mentioned something similar to this, is on the streaming channels, they started to watch their favorite shows in that language. So they would change the either put subtitles on, like they changed the language and then put English subtitles on. So they knew they could read what they were listening to, but they heard it in that language. And there are a number of companies where you can actually you can actually get online with a native speaker and spend 30 minutes in that dominant language. The entire conversation is in that language. So that's another way to do it. And to build fluency, consider singing in that language. So learn songs in that language just to get their tongue used to the nuance of the language in a way that's still fun, and it's not official. It's not breaking open a book and trying to translate something. It's just getting the language on their tongue.
Tiffany, you had your hand up.
It was touched on. I'm sorry I have to get so close. It was touched on about using videos, and I would not recommend investing in a private tutor until you're confident that your child wants to stick with whichever language they might be learning. And we're talking like later years, after perhaps the age of 16. In our family, if you've demonstrated a desire to visit the country in which the language is spoken, then we'll invest in a tutor. But beyond that, I wouldn't recommend doing that. YouTube videos are awesome, amazing. You can go on Khan Academy. There's so many different places you can find resources so that your child can hear the language, proper pronunciation. But to purchase a curriculum, it's not necessary. And private tutoring, again, if a child demonstrates to proceed and they're actually going to use that language professionally or in their private life, then I would recommend, private tutoring.
Awesome. Any other comments? All right. Thank you so much. So we are pressed for time, but I will ask this. Do you guys have any words of advice that you would like to give to the viewers? Any words of advice, any words of wisdom that you'd like to share? And then we'll wrap it up there.
Don't stress. If you are concerned, if you are having the thoughts of, am I doing enough? That is proof that you are. It's the people who don't ask that question that we need to worry about. And just like parenting, you choose your battles and it will be okay.
I just want to say how much I admire a person who homeschools. You really do put a lot of effort into what you do.
I would say field trips and experiences are just as important as opening a book. Everything that they learn is you can learn so much just in conversation next to mom and dad, at the table with their siblings, on the road as you're going someplace, and actually seeing something in person, touching it, hearing it is just as rich an experience as reading about it.
And I would say, can you guys hear me? Better than before?
Yes.
Okay. And so I would just to piggyback off of Tamara's comment, every experience is a learning experience. In secular education, they use this terminology called cross-curriculum. And so you can have your student learn baking, but at the same time, they're learning fractions because they're learning what a half a cup. Every opportunity is a teaching opportunity. And then for parents that are homeschooling, it's important to be organized. I would say that would also be my personal takeaway. Try to be as organized as you can, especially for parents who have to submit IHIP forms and any type of report. The more organized you are, the less pushback and the less questions you're going to have from any oversight organization. So every opportunity is a learning opportunity, and just try to be organized with your documentation and your student portfolio.
Awesome. Danielle, I don't know if you're there.
I am here. I had to go off because they were everywhere. Some advice, I think also I would just piggyback on the not stressing, right? Trying to recognize that you take one day at a time, and you as you go, you learn more and more. And a stressful parent is not going to be on their best game for educating anyway. So take a deep breath, in and out. and focus on all the positives of that day and those lessons and move forward the next.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all that. All right, so I'm going to put you all backstage now. All right, and we are well pressed for time, so we're just going to go through this quickly. So we are at the end of our program. I want to give my speakers a moment to promote their businesses and organizations. So please follow them on social media, go to their websites, give them your support. Their information is in the description, but it'll also be playing at the bottom of the screen. So I am going to pull them up one by one and they can promote their business. So I will start with Danielle. Let me just add her to the screen. Danielle, you're there?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm here.
All right. Promote your business.
My business is Doula Loop Birth Services. You can find it on Facebook. I am a birth, postpartum doula, and a certified lactation counselor. If you are on Instagram, my Instagram is the breast advice. That's my Instagram. So that is my business.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Tamara, you're where'd she go? Okay. All right. She had to go, so I'll just kind of briefly mention. So she has a Facebook group. It is at Westchester Homeschoolers. So for those of you in the New York area that are in the Westchester County, I encourage you to go to her Facebook group and join the Facebook group. And she is also a private consultant for homeschoolers, only for New York State. Sorry, guys. So for those of you in New York State that want one-on-one consultation about how to do the process, the paperwork, any guidelines, rules, regulations, and you want that one-on-one attention, her contact information is scrolling below. You can send her an email, you can call her, and you can find her on Facebook. So for you New Yorkers, you want that one-on-one attention, Tamara is your girl. Oh, and she has a book, African American Families, Why We Homeschool. It's on Amazon right now. Go get that book and get that consultation. All right, so the next one is Sandra Price Blyden. Again, she couldn't be with us today, so she sent her shout out via video. So I'm going to play that now.
Blyden Curriculum Consulting, LLC. We are your curriculum concierge. We offer two major programs on the Blyden Curriculum Consulting. The first one we have is Home Educate VI. This is our major program where we offer homeschool and traditional school resources and services to assist parents in making sure that their child perform academically the way they need them to. Another program we have is Homeschool Level Up. That's a fairly new program. With this program, we assist homeschool parents in providing them with live virtual assistance as far as teachers to teach the core subject areas for the homeschool week. We also provide these parents with grades and other support to help the children throughout the entire week. Some other service that we provide at Blyden Curriculum Consulting LLC is we offer professional development for parents. We work with umbrella schools, co-ops, learning pods, and all of the other type of activities and programs you can find in your homeschool. Don't forget, visit our website at www.blydencurriculumconsultingllc.com. You will find a variety of activities and resources. See you there. Goodbye.
Fabulous. Thank you. All right. Next one is Chris Twing. Chris, go ahead. Promote your business.
So my business is Threads Through Time Social Studies, and this year I'm teaching only locally, but next year I'll also be teaching history classes, primarily American history and Texas history, virtually as well. And the school I teach through is Ignite, and so my fellow teachers can offer you classes in all kinds of things. And I am working on a U.S. history that is inclusive of all the experiences and all the voices. So that is coming probably not for another year and a half.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And Tiffany, I'm going to have you promote your business. You're on mute. There you are.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I am Tiffany Sams. I am one of the co-founders for the Academy of Pivotal Learning. So we are a online school that specializes in the education of grades 4 through 8. We believe that those are pivotal learning years. We understand that a lot of people, young people, have been very affected by the pandemic. They've suffered from learning loss in key areas such as reading, English language arts, and math. So we have math specialists, reading specialists, ELA specialists that work with us. Your children can come to us full-time or part-time or for elective only. We have some great electives to offer even to our younger students, 5th grade through 7th grade, which typically they wouldn't be able to get instrument lessons or learning a language, journalism, graphic art and design. So again, I'm the co-founder for Academy of Pivotal Learning. Grades 4 through 8 is our specialty. We offer full-time, part-time, and elective-only classes to students all over the United States. For parents who are currently homeschooling their children and you're looking for another option, way for them to socialize, and we built in hands-on learning experiences. We actually provide our students with books, which is different from virtual learning platforms. So that's us. And if you can visit our website, you can find out more at www.aplhomeschool.org. You can also visit us on Facebook and Instagram, same handle, APL Homeschool for Instagram and Facebook. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. And last one is Jan. Go ahead, promote your business.
Thank you. Hi, Jan Sixt at jstutor.com. The website has the 2 books that I published, the preschool book and the book for after a child gets into school. I have over 1,200 educational videos on the website that start at a preschool level, and I teach through elementary school, middle school, and high school. So it would be preschool through 12th. There are also specialty topics on there, review for standardized tests like the ACT, the SAT. There's a playlist for English as a second language, and the movies are organized in a learning-friendly order. So if you were to watch the movies one right after another, like I've organized it, it would be like you were presenting a whole curriculum to your student. There's spelling, grammar, reading, writing, science, and social studies with note-taking, and lots and lots of math. So if you go to JS Tutor right now, there's also a free month subscription that you can get for a limited time.
Thank you, Jan. All right. Excuse me. All right. So we thank you to all of the speakers that contributed today. I definitely appreciate the time and the effort that it took to do all that. And our program is now finished. thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here today. So the replay will be up on our YouTube channel if you're watching this on our YouTube, and it is also on our Facebook page. So definitely check that out. So as soon as this is done, it'll be ready to go. So as a reminder, this was a production of, hold on, let me get my banner up. I want my banner. All right, so as a reminder, this workshop was a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and you are watching this either on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, maybe Twitter, I don't know, but you're watching this on our social media in one way or another. So if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, while you're there, I encourage you to check out the channel for more videos and clips, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this event by leaving a comment in the comments section below. And for those of you watching this on Facebook Live, please give us a like. We will definitely appreciate the support. And please follow us on our various social media platforms. And if you would like to learn more about A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, you can visit us online. Our website is scrolling below, but I'll just tell you anyway. The website is www.astepAheadtutoringservices.com. And one last thing before I disappear. We're almost there. Just bear with me. Trying to drive this home. We are also seeking financial contributions to our crowdfunding campaign on ifundwomen.com. iFundWomen is the go-to funding marketplace for women-owned businesses and the people who want to support them with access to capital, coaching, and connections. So I'm just going to play this quick video that will explain more about that.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider donating to our crowdfunding campaign. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. We're a for-profit company. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
And that's that. So I encourage you to check out our crowdfunding campaign and make a donation today. And we did it. We've reached the conclusion of our program, you guys. Let me give you your round of applause for making it. I know this was very well spent, but I hope that this was informative. I hope that you took a lot from this. I hope that you use this information to make your decision about homeschooling or to strengthen your skills in homeschooling. I hope this was good for you. This was a lot for us to put together, and I appreciate all the speakers that came out and took the time and the resources to do this. And I appreciate you for watching. So whether you are here with us live or you are watching the replay, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you next time. So thank you again. And stay tuned for the closing credits. So after the credits, I will then close. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your support, and I hope to see you again. Signing off.